Slutwalk returns. It is now the beginning of spring on 2012, which means we should all expect the international grassroots protest movement known as Slutwalk to return bigger and better than ever before. For those few who might not be familiar with this this populist juggernaut, Slutwalk is a humanist protest movement against the badly worded suggestion by one Canadian police officer that women, in order to avoid sexual victimization, should avoid dressing as sluts. The article goes on to engage in all kinds of foolishness. It'll be linked in the low bar, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what this individual has to say later on. The Slutwalk is not a movement protesting the view that victims of rape have nobody to blame except for themselves, and this is evident after the most fleeting consideration at the Vancouver, British Columbia instantiation of the protest parade, which I attended and observed. One oft-recurring slogan read, "Don't teach women not to rape, teach men not to rape." This goes on and on. But the other purpose, this is the last part of it, the other purpose of this international protest movement, we are told, is the reclamation of the demeaning, degrading word, the word slut. It is a word which is nearly as I can determine outside of approved politically polite super double plusy good speak actually means sexually irresponsible jackass. That's the word that marching sluts seem bent to put positive spin on. So, gentlemen, you mustn't say slut anymore when what you really mean is sexually irresponsible jackass. So just say sexually irresponsible jackass. The Slutwalk movement is neither a protest of Michael Sanguinetti's words nor a protest against victim blaming. It is a show of force and a demonstration of superiority of status. Slutwalks worldwide are a reminder to men to know their place. No matter how drunk, slutty, irresponsible, and sexually suggestive the attire and behavior of a drunken, drugged, partying slut becomes, she is supreme and owns no culpability. Men are responsible, and should she, at the time or later in the moment of post facto regret, decide that whatever sexual pursuit was pursued, if she decides she doesn't or didn't like it, well, then the man is at fault. In fact, he's a criminal to be destroyed. The Slutwalk movement is a show of power. To men it is a clear message. Know your place. Bow your head and agree that the most privileged, protected, pampered demographic in human history are actually victims, and further agree that you belong to a class of criminals. That is what the international protest movement called Slutwalk really is. Posted by our very own John the Other on Answers in A Voice for Men just on the 7th. Why am I bringing this up? Well, today John the Other decided to post on the videos the MRA Exterminatus, so now I'm going to proceed with installment 3. First of all, John, I am not encouraging violence by recognizing that your group and everyone in it at this point is the violent ones. So far as I can tell, I've never seen a radical feminist walk into a school classroom as the guy did in Ontario, Canada, and then gun down 14 people, wounding 10, including 4 men, just because he thought they were feminists. Nor have any of them done as Andreas Breivik has in executing 77 people, because of the rather misogynistic viewpoint he had of the world, and that you have, actually. And if anyone is promoting violence here, it's all of you. All we have to do is go at random through any MRA channel on YouTube and pick 5-10 videos. Just pick them. And I guarantee you will hear hate, vitriol, misrepresentation, and stupidity. The truth of the matter is here, the only one promoting hate here is you, John. And you say it in this article, in the comments, everything on this site moves people towards hate. It's got nothing to do with equal rights. It's got nothing to do with the reality of what's going on for a lot of men that you don't give a shit about. This is you and every other emotionally stunted and damaged dipshits war against females who turned you down to go to the prom at some point. And it's frankly a little ridiculous. Now, I would say something clever here. I would try to remind you of your obligations, not just as a man, but as a human being. I would try to reason with you in the sense that maybe you should think about the consequences of the asshattery that you and guys like Barbarossa and Pine Grove and any number of your comrades participate in. I would try to remind you of all that, but it's not going to do me any good. Because I am talking to a bunch of hate-mongering jackasses whose view of the world has become so skewed, so incapable of seeing the reality of what's going on. You've turned a sect of people, tiny and almost insignificant even in feminism, in the form of radical feminism, into this all-encompassing, all-powerful boogeyman that has control of everything and produces everything and keeps everyone down. That's why so many women are CEOs, right? That's why so many women have been president. That's why so many women have participated at the highest levels of all forms of government. Give me a break. There's no other way to put this other than this is to me simply the whining and complaining of a bunch of butthurt men who aren't interested in actual rights of other men or the problems that they go through. As other sex-positive feminists have pointed out, prostate cancer, male rape in prison, the prison industrial complex, the problems that men are really facing. But it's not the same as what women are facing. It's not the same of having our reproductive rights taken away from us, because we do still have them. In fact, we can get out of them very easily most of the time. It's not that hard. Not to mention that there are a few places in the world that you can go to where you can say that women really have a fair shake, be it the Middle East or Southeast Asia, what have you. This idea that somehow Western women have turned you all into a bunch of blithering idiots through feminism is ridiculous. And this all comes down to pathos. It comes down to pure and simple pathos, hatred, irrational belief in this all-encompassing conspiracy foisted on you by feminist women. First of all, the radical feminists, from what I can tell, couldn't find their own ass with both hands. They're too filled with hate, just like the rest of you. Fortunately, they're a very small minority, just like all of you. But you guys have managed to pull something off that's pretty impressive. You managed to get the Southern Poverty Law School to look at you. And that's not an easy thing to do. Not with guys like Sam Bowers and Tom Metzger, Byron De La Beckwith, and David Duke, Philip Rushton, any number of the most prominent racists that are running around today that the Southern Poverty Law School has to keep an eye on. Or the other hate groups like the Christian Identity Movement, the Aryan Nation, the White National Socialists, even in the form of some extreme African American hate groups that they have to keep an eye on, like the Nation of Islam, which is potentially could become a hate group. Farrakhan himself is probably somewhat close to something like you guys, or something close to an African version of David Duke. So this is pretty impressive, and I only sampled 3 or 4 articles out of all of this. No sourcing, no real information, no numbers. It's all pure commentary. It's all pure political and personal commentary meant to invoke emotional response, and more importantly, to foster feelings of ill will, to create hate. That's what these sites do. That's what your site does. That's what this article does. The idea somehow that if a woman dresses a certain way, she should expect to be assaulted. That somehow we as men are not capable of resisting said factor. Let me tell a little personal story, and I don't tell many of these. Going home one night, a couple of friends. One of them is an extraordinarily attractive young woman who is drunk off of her ass. We get her home, and we put her in bed, and she starts coming on to me. Now, she is drunk off of her ass and beautiful. But you know what I did, John? You know what I did? I took her hands off of me. I said, "You're drunk, maybe later." And I walked out of the room, John. I walked right out of the fucking room. You want to know why I walked out of the room? Because the fact is that when someone is impaired, it is incumbent on whoever is present, male or female, who is not impaired, to look out for that said individual. You must have the good judgment, fortitude, and frankly, you must have the restraint to understand this one thing. This is not a male or female thing. This is a responsibility of someone as a citizen to one's fellow citizens. I walked out of the room. I know I could have taken advantage of the situation. She probably would have never remembered. If she did, she probably would have been okay with it. Later on, as we talked and got to know each other, it turned out she probably wouldn't have cared. But I did, and I understood that I had a special obligation at that moment because I was not impaired. I was sober. I had control of my faculties, and I could make the decision for us, whereas she was not. Even if she wanted to, you still have to make that decision. You have to make that call for that person, and you have to think of their best interest also. This is what it means to be a citizen. This is what it means to be a person who lives in res publica, the public thing, despite the fact that this was a private matter. What you essentially are advocating, in my opinion, is the idea that all responsibility should be thrown to the wind, regardless if you're male or female. It takes a lot more than you're advocating to be that citizen. The truth is that you and your buddies are a bunch of dumbasses. And you're a bunch of dumbasses who fail to understand that this is not a matter that is simply someone dresses provocatively and then looks surprised when something happens, or she's impaired and something happens. The surefire way to never let that happen, to never be put in that position, is to do what I did. Thanks but no thanks, and you walk away. Unfortunately, I never did to get to have sex with her, so that was a missed opportunity. But regardless, I made the right decision. You walk away. That is a powerful statement, not hate.